Pedate, kiede, tosati davish ko bojene, janapunitu demarso joataleta, tunache bechiti de bane matkire.
I always thought my life was simple. Dinner will be ready by 7, Emily said that morning, smiling while fixing my tie. Don't work too late. I laughed and kissed her forehead. I'll try, but you know my boss. Ryan was already in the kitchen, sipping coffee. You're lucky, man, he said. Perfect wife, steady job. I believed him. I trusted him. That trust felt solid, unbreakable. At work, my phone buzzed. Emily texted, "Can you grab wine on the way home?" I replied, "Sure. Anything else?" She sent a heart emoji. Ryan called later. "I might stop by tonight," he said. "Family stuff." I said, "You're always welcome." I meant it. I never questioned why he came so often. I left work early, hoping to surprise Emily. In the car, I imagine her smile. She'll be happy, I told myself. I unlocked the door quietly. The house was too silent. "Emily." I called. No answer. I walked toward the bedroom, still smiling, still trusting. The door was half open. I pushed it. My world ended there. "Emily." My voice cracked. She screamed. Ryan jumped up, pulling the sheet. "Wait," he said. "This isn't what it looks like." I stared at them, frozen. My hand shook. "Get out," I whispered. "Tell me I'm dreaming." Emily reached for me. "Please, listen." I stepped back. "Don't touch me." Ryan spoke fast. "It was a mistake. One time." I laughed, a broken sound. "One time in my bed." Emily cried. "I was lonely. You were never home." I shouted, "I was working for us." My chest burned. "How long?" Silence answered me. Ryan looked down. "That was enough. I trusted you," I said. "You're my blood." He said, "I didn't plan this." I snapped, "You planned every lie." Emily whispered, "I still love you." I shook my head. "Love doesn't do this." My legs felt weak. I sat on the floor, staring at the wall. My mind went numb. "Say something," Emily begged. I said, "I don't know who you are." Ryan tried again. "We can fix this." I looked at him. "Get dressed and leave." He hesitated. I yelled, "Now." He left without another word. Emily knelt beside me. "I'm sorry." I asked, "How many times?" She cried harder. "Answer me," I said. "I deserve the truth." She whispered, "Months." The word cut deeper than any knife. "In my house." I asked. She nodded. "While I trusted you." She said, "I hated myself." I replied, "Not enough to stop." I stood and opened the closet. "Your clothes are everywhere," I said. "So were your lies." She grabbed my arm. "I was scared to lose you." I laughed. "You lost me the moment you chose him." My heart pounded. Was he worth it? She sobbed. "I don't know." I answered, "You will." Ryan knocked from the hallway. I forgot my phone. I screamed, "Get out of my life." He said, "I'm sorry." I replied, "Sorry doesn't erase betrayal." He left again, footsteps fading. Emily followed me to the living room. "We can talk," she said. "Not tonight," I answered. "Not ever." I grabbed my keys. "Where are you going?" she asked. I said, "Away from you." At the door, I turned back. "You destroyed my life." She whispered, "Please." I walked out. The night air hit me hard. I sat in my car, shaking. "This is real," I told myself. "It's over." The future I trusted died in that bedroom, and I drove away knowing nothing would ever be the same again. I shut the door behind me and didn't look back. My phone and keys were all I had. "That's it," I muttered. "That's my whole life now." I sat in the car, hands gripping the wheel. "Breathe," I told myself. "Just breathe." My chest hurt like something was crushing it. I started the engine and drove without a plan. My phone rang. Emily's name flashed. I laughed bitterly. Now you want to talk. I said aloud. I didn't answer. Another call came. Then a text. Please come back. We need to talk. I whispered. There's nothing left to say. I turned the phone face down, but it kept vibrating like it was alive. At a red light, memories attacked me. You promised forever, I said to the empty car. I remembered her laugh, her hands, her voice saying my name. Was any of it real? I asked myself. My reflection in the mirror looked weak. How did I miss it? I slammed the steering wheel. How stupid was I? My phone buzzed again. This time it was Ryan. I shouldn't have opened it. I did. I never meant to hurt you, he wrote. Feelings just happened. I felt my hand shake. Feelings. I said. You don't trip and fall into my wife. Another message came. You weren't around. She needed someone. I shouted. I was her husband. People stared at me at the light. I didn't care. I typed, "You're dead to me," then erased it. "No," I said. "Silence hurts more." I blocked his number. My heart pounded hard, but I felt a strange calm after. That's done, I told myself. One less lie to hear. I pulled into a cheap motel near the highway. The sign flickered like it was tired of living. Inside, the clerk didn't look up. "One night," I said. He slid the key over. No questions. I liked that. In the room, I sat on the bed and stared at the wall. "This is where I am now," I said. Alone. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I knew it was Emily. I answered before thinking. "What?" I said. She cried instantly. "Please don't do this." I closed my eyes. "You already did this." She said, "I made a mistake." I laughed. "Mistakes don't last months." She said, "I love you." I replied, "Love doesn't betray." She begged, "Come home." I said, "There is no home." I hung up. I lay back and stared at the ceiling. The light hummed softly. "I gave everything," I whispered. Why wasn't I enough? My mind replayed moments I once loved. Every smile felt fake now. Was he laughing at me? I asked. My throat tightened. Did they ever feel guilty? Another text came through before I could stop it. Emily wrote, "I'll wait for you." I deleted it. "Don't wait," I said. "Learn to live with what you did." I turned the phone off and placed it on the table. The silence felt heavy but clean. I rolled onto my side. I could scream, I thought. I could beg. I pictured myself going back, shouting, crying. My stomach turned. "No," I said. "That's what they expect." I sat up. I won't give them that. I whispered into the dark, "You broke me." Then I added, "But you don't own me." My breathing slowed. The pain was still there, sharp and deep, but something else joined it. Control. Silence, I told myself. Silence is my answer. I closed my eyes, not to sleep, but to survive. This is the first night, I thought. The first step. Outside, a car passed. Inside, I finally stopped shaking. I walked away with nothing, I said softly. But I walked away. I went back to the house 3 days later. "I'm here to end this," I said as I stepped inside. Emily stood near the table, eyes red. "Thank you for coming," she whispered. I didn't sit. "Let's not pretend this is polite." She flinched. "I want to explain." I replied, "I've heard enough lies." She slid the papers toward me. "This doesn't have to be ugly." I laughed. "You slept with my cousin in my bed." She cried harder. "I made a terrible mistake." I leaned forward. "Say his name." She shook her head. "Ryan." The word tasted bitter. "How long?" I asked again. She whispered, "Since last winter." I closed my eyes. So it wasn't one night. She said nothing. The door opened behind me. Aunt Linda walked in. "Let's calm down," she said. I turned. "Why are you here?" She frowned. Family matters concern family. I said, then why did family betray me? She sighed. Ryan didn't mean for this to happen. I snapped. He meant every time. Uncle Mark followed her in. Don't be dramatic, he said. These things happen. I stared at him. To you, maybe. Emily sobbed. Please stop fighting. I said, you lost the right to ask that. Aunt Linda crossed her arms. You work too much, she said. Emily was lonely. My chest tightened. So that excuses cheating. Uncle Mark shrugged. Marriage is complicated. I replied, betrayal is simple. Emily reached for the papers. If you sign, we can move on. I said, you moved on months ago. She cried, I was confused. I asked, did confusion make you hide it? Silence answered me. Aunt Linda shook her head. Ryan feels terrible. I laughed. He felt comfortable. Uncle Mark added, you're not perfect either. I nodded. I never claimed to be. I picked up the pen. My hand trembled. This ends today, I said. Emily whispered, do you hate me? I looked at her. I don't recognize you. She broke down. I loved you. I replied, love doesn't lie. Aunt Linda stepped closer. You'll regret this. I said, I already regret trusting you all. Ryan's name echoed in my head. Did he ever plan to tell me? I asked. Emily shook her head. He was afraid. I laughed quietly. Afraid of consequences. Uncle Mark said, Ryan is still family. I replied, not mine. Aunt Linda said, blood matters. I answered, so does loyalty. I signed the first page. The pen scratched loudly. There, I said. Emily gasped. Please wait. I signed again. I waited long enough. My hand shook worse with every signature. You're really doing this, she said. I replied, you already did. Aunt Linda muttered, selfish. I looked at her. I protected my marriage. Uncle Mark said, you'll be alone. I nodded. I already am. Emily reached for me again. I never stopped caring. I stepped back. You stopped respecting. She cried, I'm sorry. I said, sorry doesn't heal betrayal. I slid the papers across the table. We are done. Emily collapsed into the chair. Aunt Linda looked disappointed. Uncle Mark checked his phone. Let's go, he said. No one stopped me as I walked out. At the door, I turned. You chose sides, I said. Remember that. Outside, I breathed deeply. It's final, I whispered. My phone buzzed, but I ignored it. I felt hollow, like something had been carved out of me. I'm free, I told myself. The word felt heavy. I walked away legally unbound, emotionally broken, and completely alone. I didn't expect to see anyone from that family again. I'm only here for 10 minutes, I told myself as I stepped into the hall. A cousin's engagement, neutral ground, unavoidable. I stayed near the wall, answering greetings with nods. You look tired, someone said. I replied, life does that. I reached for a glass of water, ready to leave. Can I talk to you? A soft voice asked. I turned and froze. Claire, I said. Ryan's younger sister stood there, hands clasped. If you don't want to, I understand, she added. I hesitated. You have 2 minutes. She nodded. That's fair. We stepped aside. She looked straight at me. I'm sorry, she said. I raised an eyebrow. For what? She replied, for your pain. The words landed differently. You don't owe me that, I said. She shook her head. I wanted to say it anyway. I studied her face. No excuses. No defense. Just honesty. I won't defend my brother, she continued. What he did was wrong. I exhaled slowly. You're the first one to say that. She swallowed. I stopped speaking to him. I looked at her. Why? She said, because betrayal shouldn't be rewarded. I nodded once. That's rare. Silence settled between us. I broke it. Everyone else told me to move on. She replied, moving on doesn't erase damage. I felt something tighten in my chest. You don't sound like them. She met my eyes again. I don't want to be like them. Her voice didn't shake. I crossed my arms. You know they blamed me. She sighed. I heard. I asked, and? She said, I disagreed. I laughed quietly. You must be unpopular. She smiled faintly. I can live with that. I respected that more than I expected. I didn't come to fix anything, she said. I just didn't want you thinking everyone stayed silent. I looked away. Silence was loud. She nodded. That's why I spoke. I felt awkward, unsure where to place my anger now. You're different, I admitted. She replied, I try to be decent. A woman nearby laughed loudly. I flinched. Claire noticed. Are you okay? She asked. I hesitated. I don't know anymore. She didn't rush me. That makes sense, she said. I sighed. Empathy feels strange now. She answered, it shouldn't. I asked, why risk talking to me? She said, because ignoring pain doesn't make it disappear. I nodded. You're right. She added, I don't expect forgiveness. I replied, I'm not offering it. She said calmly, I didn't ask. That honesty surprised me. I checked my watch. My 2 minutes are up. She smiled gently. Thank you for staying. I said, thank you for not lying. She paused. If you ever need someone neutral, I'm here. I met her gaze again. Neutral is rare. She said, so is integrity. Someone called her name. She stepped back. Take care of yourself, she said. I replied, you too. She walked away without looking back. I stood there, feeling unsettled. That felt real, I thought. No manipulation. No guilt. Just respect. As I left the hall, I realized something uncomfortable. Not everyone is cruel, I whispered. Claire didn't erase my pain, but she shifted something inside me. In a world that had turned cold, she reminded me fairness still existed. That mattered more than I wanted to admit. Months passed, even when I didn't want them to. This place is smaller, I said, dropping my keys on the counter. The empty apartment echoed back at me. But it's quiet, I added. I unpacked slowly, talking to myself because silence still felt dangerous. You survived, I said. That has to mean something. My phone buzzed. Claire. Coffee tomorrow, she texted. I stared at the screen. Just coffee, I replied. At the cafe, she smiled gently. You look better, she said. I scoffed. That's a lie. She shook her head. You're breathing again. I sipped my drink. Some days feel wrong. She asked, wrong how? I said, like healing is betrayal. She leaned forward. Betraying who? I answered, the man I was. She nodded. That man suffered enough. I looked away. Laughing feels illegal. She replied, pain isn't loyalty. I didn't argue, but the guilt stayed. We talked about nothing. Weather, work, books. Then she said, you went quiet. I admitted, I heard something. She waited. Emily and Ryan, I said. They're together openly now. Claire didn't react. How does that make you feel? She asked. I laughed once. Angry. Small. Replaceable. She said, that doesn't define you. I replied, it still hurts. That night, I paced my apartment. They're happy, I told myself, while I'm rebuilding from scraps. I imagined confronting them. You ruined me, I would say. My chest tightened. Would that help? I asked the room. No answer came. Claire called the next day. You sound heavy, she said. I admitted, I'm thinking about revenge. She was quiet. And? She asked. I said, I want them to feel what I felt. She replied calmly, they already will. I snapped, How do you know? She said, people who build happiness on damage don't keep it. We met again. I said, what if I never forgive? She answered, forgiveness isn't required. I frowned. Everyone says it is. She shook her head. Peace doesn't need permission. I leaned back. What if moving on means forgetting? She replied, you don't forget scars. You stop bleeding. I caught myself smiling at something she said. I froze. See? I said, that. She asked, what? I replied, feeling okay. She smiled softly. You're allowed. I whispered, it feels wrong. She said, it feels new. That word scared me. Later, alone, I checked social media and regretted it. A photo. Emily smiling. Ryan beside her. So public, I muttered. My hand shook. Is this their reward? I closed the app. Stop poisoning yourself, I said aloud. Claire texted, did you eat? I answered, not really. She replied, come over. I made soup. I hesitated, then went. She handed me a bowl. No pressure, she said. Just warmth. I swallowed hard. Thank you. She replied, you don't owe me anything. I confessed, part of me wants them to fail. She nodded. That's human. I said, another part wants peace. She smiled. That part grows. I asked, how do I choose? She said, you already are. I looked at her. By living. She said, by not becoming them. When I left, I stood outside and breathed deeply. I didn't scream today, I thought. I didn't beg. I texted Claire, thank you for pulling me back. She replied, you're walking on your own. Back in my apartment, I sat on the floor. Healing hurts, I whispered. But staying broken hurts more. I turned off my phone. I won't chase revenge, I decided. I'll build something they can't touch. The guilt didn't vanish, but it softened. For the first time, I believed moving forward wasn't betrayal. It was survival. I didn't look for the news. It found me anyway. Did you hear about Ryan? A coworker asked casually. I replied, no, he said. People don't trust him anymore. I felt my stomach tighten. At work? I asked. He nodded. Rumors. Affairs. Backstabbing. I stayed silent. Guess karma is real, he added. I walked away without responding. Later, Claire called. Are you okay? She asked. I said, I heard something. She paused. About Ryan. I exhaled. His career is collapsing. She didn't sound surprised. Trust is fragile, she said. I replied, he broke a lot of it. She answered, including his own. That night, I sat alone and stared at my phone. Don't check, I told myself. I checked anyway. Posts were gone. Comments disappeared. Interesting, I muttered. I imagined his panic. So this is how it starts. I felt no joy. Just distance. A message came from an old friend. Emily doesn't come around anymore, he wrote. I typed, why? He replied, people avoid her. I swallowed. She chose this, I whispered. I remembered her tears. Did she think it would stay secret forever? I deleted the chat. Not my concern, I said. Claire and I met for dinner. She asked, you seem lighter. I shrugged. I stopped chasing answers. She smiled. That's growth. I said, or exhaustion. She shook her head. Peace feels different. I looked at her. You're right. The word felt steady. I admitted, part of me wanted to see them fall. She replied, and now? I thought for a moment. Now I just want quiet. She nodded. That's power. I laughed softly. Doesn't feel dramatic. She said, real change never is. Ryan texted me that night from an unknown number. Things are bad, he wrote. I never meant for this. I stared at the screen. You meant to lie, I said aloud. Another message came. Emily and I fight all the time. I felt tired. That's not my problem, I whispered. I didn't reply. The next morning, Emily emailed. I miss my old life, she wrote. I read it once. So do I said quietly. She added, I feel alone. I closed the email. You chose company over honesty, I told the empty room. I didn't respond. I told Claire about it. She asked, do you feel tempted? I shook my head. No, she raised an eyebrow. That's new. I smiled faintly. I don't want apologies. She said, good. I replied, I want closure. She answered, you already have it. Days passed. I noticed something strange. I didn't check today, I said one evening. Claire asked, check what? I realized it then. Their lives. She smiled. That matters. I nodded. I don't feel pulled anymore. She said, that's the shift. I ran into Aunt Linda at the store. She avoided my eyes. How are you? She asked stiffly. I said, fine. She hesitated. Ryan is struggling. I replied, I heard. She sighed. Families break. I answered, they also choose. She had nothing to say. Later, alone, I reflected. I thought revenge needed action, I said. But silence did more. My chest felt calm. I didn't destroy them, I continued. They did. That realization settled deeply. I'm not responsible for their collapse. Claire called before bed. I'm proud of you, she said. I asked, for what? She replied, for letting go. I smiled. I didn't know I was holding on. She said, you were. I answered, not anymore. I lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. Karma didn't knock loudly, I thought. It whispered. I felt no triumph, only relief. I'm moving forward, I told myself. They're looking back. I turned off my phone. For the first time, I slept without wondering what they were doing. I stood beside Claire and whispered, I never thought peace would feel like this. She squeezed my hand and said, that's because you were taught love should hurt. I smiled. I believed that once. She looked at me. Not anymore. The room was quiet, simple, honest. No tension. No pretending. Just us. She asked softly, are you nervous? I laughed. No, she raised an eyebrow. Really? I answered, I'm calm. She nodded. That's how it should be. I remembered my first wedding day, the tight chest, the forced smiles. I was scared back then, I admitted. She said, fear isn't commitment. I agreed. I know that now. The officiant spoke, but I barely heard him. I leaned closer and said, thank you for choosing truth. Claire replied, thank you for surviving. Those words meant everything. When we said our vows, there were no promises to impress. I said, I choose honesty, even when it's hard. She said, I choose you, even when life isn't kind. I felt steady. Later, we sat together, plates untouched. She asked, are you thinking about the past? I answered, only to see how far I've come. She smiled. Does it still hurt? I shook my head. It taught me. She reached for my hand. Pain shouldn't be wasted. I nodded. I turned it into clarity. I told her, my old marriage felt like walking on glass. She replied, love shouldn't wound you. I said, I was always guessing. She said, you don't guess with me. I smiled. That's the difference. She leaned her head on my shoulder. I trust you. I said, I protect that trust. We talked about small things. Coffee habits. Morning routines. She laughed and said, you snore. I grinned. You steal blankets. She said, I'll admit it. I replied, see? Honesty. She laughed harder. This is what I wanted. I said, so did I. I caught myself waiting for something to go wrong. I confessed, part of me still expects disaster. She looked at me seriously. I won't punish you for scars. I breathed out slowly. Thank you. She added, healing isn't forgetting. I nodded. It's choosing better. Someone asked, how does it feel? I answered, safe. Claire squeezed my hand again. That's my favorite word, she said. I looked at her. Mine too. I remembered nights filled with doubt. I don't feel small anymore, I said. She replied, you never were. That evening, we stood alone outside. I said, funny how life works. She asked, how? I answered, betrayal led me here. She said, truth kept you. I smiled. You taught me love doesn't beg. She said, you taught me strength can be quiet. I admitted, I don't hate them anymore. She asked, do you forgive them? I thought, I don't carry them. She nodded. That's enough. I felt light saying it. My happiness doesn't argue with the past. She said, it builds over it. When the night ended, we walked away together. I said, this marriage feels like standing on solid ground. She replied, because it is. I looked at her and knew it was true. Love wasn't fear anymore. It was choice, honesty, and peace. I didn't survive just to exist. I survived to live fully, and for the first time, I truly did. Ryan asked to meet me at a quiet cafe near the station. I almost said no. What would that change? I asked myself. Still, I went. When I walked in, he stood up too fast. Thanks for coming, he said. I sat across from him. Say what you need to say. He looked thinner, nervous. I lost my job, he said. I nodded. I heard. He swallowed. Emily left. I replied, I heard that too. He rubbed his hands together. No one talks to me anymore. I said, you burned a lot of bridges. He sighed. I know. Silence stretched. He finally said, I'm sorry. I studied his face. For what? He hesitated. For everything. I leaned back. That's vague. He winced. For betraying you. I waited. Why? I asked. He looked down. I was jealous. I raised an eyebrow. Of me. He nodded. Your stability. Your life. I laughed once. You stole it instead. He whispered, I was weak. I replied, you were selfish. He didn't argue. I ruined everything, he said. I answered, you chose to. He said, I thought I could replace you. I felt nothing hearing it. You didn't replace me, I said. You exposed yourself. He looked up. Do you hate me? I shook my head. I don't feel anything. That seemed to hurt him more. Please, he said. Say something. I replied, I already moved on. My phone buzzed on the table. Emily. I didn't hide it. She's texting now. Ryan asked. I said, yes. I opened it. I'm sorry for everything, she wrote. I hope you're happy. I showed him the screen. She wants forgiveness, I said. He nodded sadly. She regrets it. I replied, regret came late. Ryan said, can you forgive us? I folded my hands. Forgiveness isn't the same as access. He frowned. I don't understand. I said, I forgive so I can sleep. I don't reconnect so you can. He lowered his head. I deserve that. I agreed. You do. He asked quietly, is there any way back? I answered, no, he whispered. I lost my family. I said, you traded them. He looked up, eyes wet. I wish I could change it. I replied, so do I. That was the truth. Emily texted again. I miss our old life. I didn't respond. Ryan watched me. You won't answer. I said, there's nothing to add. He sighed. She cries every night. I replied, I did too. He nodded. I didn't think about that. I said, that was the problem. We sat in silence. Ryan finally said, "I envy your peace." I smiled faintly. I earned it. He asked, "How?" I answered, "By letting go." He nodded slowly. "I wish I had your strength." I said, "You had choices." I stood up. "This is goodbye." He looked startled. "That's it." I said, "That's enough." He stood too. "I'm truly sorry." I met his eyes. "I believe you." He looked hopeful. I added, "It doesn't change anything." His shoulders dropped. "I understand." Outside, I took a deep breath. My phone buzzed again. Emily wrote, "I hope someday you can forgive me." I typed, "I did." Then I added nothing else. I turned the phone off. As I walked away, I felt light. No anger. No victory. Just distance. I don't need their regret, I thought. I don't need their apologies. Their remorse arrived when I no longer needed answers. That was the final shift. I didn't walk away angry. I walked away free. I woke up calm today. "This is my life now," I said softly. Claire smiled across the table. "You look peaceful," she said. I nodded. "I am," I replied. "I don't hurt when I think about them anymore." She asked, "Do you ever feel angry?" I thought for a moment. "Sometimes," I said. "But it passes." She smiled. "That's growth." I laughed. "It took pain." She answered, "It always does." Later, I sat alone on the balcony. "You survived," I told myself. "You changed." The memories still existed, but they no longer controlled me. "I don't need revenge," I said. I needed release. Claire joined me. "What are you thinking?" she asked. I replied, "That betrayal didn't end me." She nodded. "It rebuilt you." I smiled. "Stronger." She said, "Kinder." I remembered the nights I couldn't breathe, the days I blamed myself. "I was broken," I said. Claire replied, "You were wounded." I shook my head. I blamed myself. She said, "You stopped doing that." My phone buzzed with a notification. I ignored it. "You don't check anymore," Claire said. I answered, "I don't need to." She smiled. "That's freedom." I breathed deeply. It feels earned. I watched the city lights flicker. "They hurt me," I said quietly. "But they don't define me." Claire replied, "You define you." I nodded. "Every day." I thought about karma. "It never rushed," I said. "It waited." Claire said, "Truth always does." I smiled. "Revenge would have made noise." She replied, "Healing makes peace." I laughed softly. I wanted them to feel my pain. Claire said, "They did." I asked, "How?" She answered, "By losing you." Silence felt comfortable now. "I don't carry anger anymore," I said. Claire responded, "You dropped it." I nodded. It was heavy. She smiled. "You look lighter." I remembered who I was before the betrayal. "I was naive," I said. Claire replied, "You were hopeful." I corrected, "I am hopeful." She squeezed my hand. "That's victory." I stood and stretched. "I built a life I don't need to escape," I said. Claire answered, "You built it on truth." I smiled. "That's why it lasts." Later, alone in bed, I whispered, "You didn't win by destroying anyone." The words felt right. You won by letting go. My chest felt light. I am free. Morning came quietly. I made coffee and watched the sun rise. "No fear," I said. "No lies." My life felt honest. "This is enough," I told myself. Claire joined me and said, "Good morning." I smiled. "Good life," I replied. She laughed. "That's my favorite greeting." I kissed her forehead. "Mine too." I looked forward, not back. "The past can't hurt me now," I said. Claire answered, "Because you grew beyond it." I nodded. I chose peace. I didn't need apologies anymore. I forgave myself. I said. Claire smiled. That's the last step. I breathed easily. I finally arrived. I closed my eyes and felt steady. This is justice, I thought. Quiet and complete. My heart rested. I'm done surviving, I whispered. I'm living. I stepped outside and felt the air. It doesn't hurt anymore, I said. Claire replied, because you healed. I smiled. I worked for this. I remembered the man who walked away with nothing. He didn't know this peace, I said. Claire answered, he created it. I nodded slowly. Through pain. She said, through courage. My phone stayed silent. No ghosts, I joked. Claire smiled. You released them. I stretched my arms. I feel whole. I once measured myself by betrayal. Not anymore, I said. Claire replied, now you choose yourself. I nodded. Every time. I thought about justice again. It didn't need my hands, I said. Claire responded, it used time. I smiled. Time was enough. I felt grateful. For pain, I added. Claire laughed. Careful. I smiled. 4 lessons. She nodded. That's better. I looked at my life honestly. It's simple, I said. Claire answered, simple can be strong. I agreed. It holds. I took her hand. I won't lose myself again, I promised. She replied, you know who you are. I smiled. I do. The future felt open. No fear, I repeated. Claire said, only choice. I nodded. That's freedom. I stood still and breathed. The past ends here, I said. Claire answered, and the present begins. I smiled softly. I won. I didn't need proof. My life is the answer, I said. Claire smiled. It always was. I felt complete. I turned toward home. No shadows, I whispered. Claire replied, only light. I nodded. Enough. I carried nothing heavy now. This is closure, I thought. Claire said, and beginning. I smiled. Both. I lived free, honest, unafraid. That's my victory, I said. Claire answered, and mine. We walked forward, together, peaceful, steady, whole, alive, present, unbroken, calm, breathing, home, finally.